From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Yemen's Houthis used drones, ballistic missiles, and booby-trapped boats to target 3 vessels, including an oil tanker in the Red Sea. Tech billionaire Elon Musk reportedly says he plans to commit roughly $45 million per month to a new fund backing Donald Trump for president. France's left-wing coalition faces a split as its leaders fail to agree on a prime minister after winning the most seats in the snap election earlier this month. Iran says Azerbaijan's embassy has resumed work in Tehran following negotiations. This after a deadly attack soured ties between the two neighbors. And U.S.-based Ford Foundation rejects Kenyan President William Ruto's accusations that it's sponsoring anarchy and funding anti-government protests. We begin here in the United States, where former President Donald Trump has received the formal nomination as the Republican candidate for President of the United States. He was given a rousing welcome as he entered the Republican National Convention arena in Milwaukee, Wisconsin just last night.
It's an endeavor to make America strong again. And say it with me, fellow Republicans, this is an endeavor to make America great again. So here we go. It is my honor to nominate Donald J. Trump for the office of President of the United States.
The ex-president, who survived an assassination attempt during a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania just 2 days ago, appeared with a bandage on his right ear. And while Donald Trump did not address the convention, the crowd welcomely received their nominee with raucous chants and applause.
Fight, 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 fight.
Very enthusiastic, very enthusiastic. Like there's hope, like there's hope. The man is tough. He is tough and he'll fight for every American.
Energized, energized. I'm up for it, baby. Too bad it's not November 5th now.
I love it. I love it. It stands for his greatness, his legacy. It just keeps growing. It keeps growing. It keeps growing. It is unbelievable, historic time. We are a part of this history. We love President Trump. Let's go, baby.
Meanwhile, after much speculation and anticipation, Donald Trump picked 39-year-old freshman senator from Ohio, JD Vance, as his vice presidential running mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to determine our nominee for the office of Vice President of the United States, Senator JD Vance.
Now, Vance, who was once a harsh and vocal critic of Donald Trump and even called him America's Hitler, back in 2016, he was a prominent member of the Never Trump movement and had expressed strong disapproval of Trump's presidential candidacy. However, his opinion dramatically changed when he met the former president back in 2021. Donald Trump endorsed Vance's Senate campaign in 2022, playing a crucial role in the senator's victory in a highly competitive Republican primary. Since then, Vance has been one of the most reliable supporters of Trump and rates the ex-president's accomplishments as the reason for his change in perspective.
To the president for everything, for endorsing me. And I gotta say, a lot of the fake news media out there, and there's some good ones in the back there, there's some bad ones too, let's be honest. But they wanted to write a story that this campaign would be the death of Donald Trump's America First agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it ain't the death of the America First agenda.
Now, the Ohio Senator highly embraces Donald Trump's isolationist and anti-immigration America First movement. And Donald Trump believes that as Vice President Vance will fight for the Constitution, stand with the troops, and do everything he can to help make America great again. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden is on the verge of failing to win a key labor endorsement as the 1.3 million member Teamsters Union considers supporting no candidate this election. The union has endorsed Biden's candidacy in 2020, but no backing this time would compound political damage to the Democrats' re-election bid. And adding to this new blow, the president of the Teamsters Union spoke at the GOP convention in Milwaukee and called Donald Trump, quote, one tough SOB.
To be frank, when President Trump invited me to speak at this convention, there was political unrest on the left and on the right. Hard to believe. Anti-union groups demanded the president rescind his invitation. The left called me a traitor. And this is precisely why it's so important for me to be here today. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want, but one thing is clear. President Trump is a candidate who is not afraid of hearing from new, loud, and often critical voices. And I think we all can agree, whether people like him or they don't like him, in light of what happened to him on Saturday, he has proven to be one tough SOB.
Now, with Donald Trump being confident of his return to the White House despite legal problems, and President Biden reeling with concerns over his fitness for office, it remains to be seen who will in fact clinch victory in November. And now moving to the latest in the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has laid out plans for a second summit to discuss ending Russia's war in Ukraine. President Zelensky said Russia should join a second summit aimed at securing lasting peace in November. During a press conference in Kyiv, after attending the NATO summit in the United States, President Zelensky suggested direct talks with Moscow.
I believe that we're ready to hold the second Ukraine peace summit sooner rather than later. And I believe that representatives of Russia should be present at the second summit.
Now, last month, Ukraine hosted leaders from 92 countries at the first summit in Switzerland to advance its peace blueprint. Now, Russia was not invited to the event and dismissed it as a non-starter. Even China was absent from the event. The first summit discussed 3 of the 10 points advanced by Ukraine as Zelensky's peace formula, including food security, nuclear safety, and the release of prisoners of war and children. Ukrainian officials have said a second summit would discuss a plan devised in advance by dozens of countries divided into working groups. Now, responding to the Ukrainian president's invitation, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said, quote, the first peace summit was not a peace summit at all, so perhaps it is necessary to first understand what he means, end quote. Time and again, President Zelensky has clarified that Ukraine is not being pressured to negotiate with Russia and that Western support isn't conditional on talks. So while international aid certainly helps Ukraine resist Russian attacks, it's not enough for a decisive victory. Hence, the Ukrainian president during the conference also urged his allies for more air defense systems, specifying 25 Patriot batteries as necessary.
From the point of view of the structure of our air defense, to completely cover Ukraine, according to our military, we need 25 Patriot systems. This is in order to completely close the sky of Ukraine.
And speaking on the prospect of another Donald Trump presidency, Zelensky expressed confidence in cooperation despite the former U.S. president's previous pro-Kremlin indications. Zelensky said he is convinced that most Republicans actually support Ukraine in its war with Russia, and the current support provided by the United States would not have been possible to secure without a level of bipartisan agreement.
The Republicans treat Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, our soldiers, and me with great respect. I see that we will develop appropriate relations, regardless of what the result turns out to be, what the choice of the people of the United States turns out to be in November. That's why I see no big threats here.
With November fast approaching, the possibility of Donald Trump winning the election is prompting worries about ongoing U.S. support for Ukraine. Donald Trump has repeatedly hinted at swiftly resolving the conflict, which could potentially lead to Ukraine entering negotiations from a position of weakness. Now, even though the Ukrainian president did not comment on President Joe Biden's re-election challenges, he acknowledged the significant impact of U.S. electoral turbulence on Ukraine. And now shifting focus to the Korean Peninsula, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong has warned South Korea that it will face gruesome consequences for dropping anti-Pyongyang leaflets over North Korea. Kim Yo Jong claims that at least 29 large balloons carrying such leaflets from the south were found around North Korea, which caused blockades in some areas and inconvenience to the citizens. Now, this is not the first time leaflets criticizing the Kim regime have been dropped across the heavily fortified border. North Korean defectors and activists in South Korea have been sending aid parcels and leaflet campaign balloons to the north now for years. And now Kim Yo Jong has condemned these activities, saying, quote, "If the ROK scum persist in their crude and dirty play, the mode of counteraction of the DPRK will inevitably be changed." She also claimed that the South Korean president was trying to divert attention from problems at home. And now, following her allegations, South Korea said that North Korea oppresses basic human rights and should reflect on itself.
It is highly regrettable that North Korea is interfering in our internal affairs by criticizing our head of state. We once again make it clear that North Korea's attempts to divide our society's public opinion will never succeed. The North Korean regime, which has isolated itself from the international community through nuclear and missile provocations and turns a blind eye to people's livelihoods and oppresses basic human rights, should first reflect on itself.
Tensions between the two increased in May after North Korea sent more than 2,000 trash-filled balloons into the south. This was in response to the anti-Pyongyang leaflets sent by North Korean defectors in the south. The balloon fight between the neighbors only intensified in June when North Korea signed a mutual defense pact with Russia. In late June, Kim Yo Jong called South Korea's live-fire artillery drills near the border inexcusable and explicit provocation. Her remarks came even as her country continues to test-fire ballistic missiles and threatens to boost its nuclear capability. Meanwhile, South Korea said it would suspend a military pact signed with the Kim regime in 2018 to protest the trash balloons coming from North Korea. Tensions have boiled over in Bangladesh as clashes between student groups over job quotas have led to over 400 injuries. The streets have turned into battlegrounds, with students fervently expressing their demands and frustrations. Their unrest marks the first major demonstration against Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina since she began her fourth consecutive term in January. Here's our report, which takes you inside the growing unrest.
The sun had barely risen over Dhaka University when the campus began to stir an unusual energy. Students poured into the grounds with their faces marked with a mixture of determination and anxiety. They were united by a single cause: to protest the controversial job quota system that includes 30% of posts reserved for children of freedom fighters, at least 10% for women, and 10% for specific districts. This system, according to critics, disproportionately benefited children of pro-government groups loyal to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And students said only those quotas supporting ethnic minorities and disabled people with 6% share of jobs should remain. By mid-morning, the campus was a sea of placards and chanting voices. But what began as a peaceful demonstration quickly escalated into chaos. While some attackers wielded machetes, others threw petrol bombs, transforming the university grounds into a battlefield. Over 400 students were injured in the violent clashes. The unrest then spread to several other universities in Bangladesh. Hundreds of other students joined the protests and marched through the night and into Monday morning. They halted traffic near the United States Embassy for more than 4 hours, making their presence and demands impossible to ignore. Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood addressed the nation, suggesting that the anti-quota movement was being manipulated into an anti-state campaign. He warned that the government will not allow an unstable situation to develop as images of the clashes circulated widely, inciting further public outrage. The protesting students' grievances were not just against the quota system, but also in response to Hasina's recent comments. The Prime Minister had compared the protesters to Razakar fighters, who were the collaborators with the Pakistani army during the War of Independence. This inflammatory comparison only fueled the students' indignation. And as dusk fell over Dhaka, the campus bore the scars of the day's violence. Blood-stained banners fluttered in the evening breeze, reminding of the day's events. The anti-quota protests were far from over. They were a symptom of deeper issues within the nation's soul. This was a battle not just for jobs, but for a future where merit rather than legacy would determine one's fate. And as the students regrouped and strategized under the cover of night, their resolve hardened. They knew the road ahead was fraught with danger, but they also knew that their struggle was just beginning.
And finally, scientists have uncovered a mysterious cave on the moon that could potentially revolutionize human lunar exploration. It could become the prime location to build a future lunar base. The cave is near the area where half a century ago Apollo 11 astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed. Experts feel the cave could harbor frozen water, which is a critical resource for drinking, rocket fuel, and much more. Our final report explores this major lunar find.
Human beings have always been attracted by the cosmos, with scientists always on the quest to uncover new frontiers for humanity's benefit. And the latest lunar revelation might just revolutionize how humans touch down on the moon. A team of Italian scientists have unearthed, or rather unmooned, a cave on the lunar surface. They reported that there is evidence of a sizable cave on the moon. It is a mere stone's throw away from where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history 55 years ago.
Got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface.
The team believes that this isn't an isolated find. They suspect that there are hundreds more. It is nestled in the Sea of Tranquility, which is over 400 kilometers from the Apollo 11 landing site.
It's one small step for man.
The cave was exposed by the collapse of a lava tube. The discovery could turn into a prime candidate for future lunar bases. The majority of these pits appear to be like dots on the moon's ancient lava plains, and some could even be near the South Pole, the targeted site for NASA's upcoming astronaut landings. Scientists feel that the permanent shadowed craters in the region could harbor frozen water, a critical resource for drinking and rocket fuel. But that's not it. The caves also offer a natural protection, working as a barrier against cosmic rays, solar radiation, and micrometeorite impacts. So it would eliminate the need for building a habitat from scratch. But the cave walls will have to be reinforced to prevent collapse. These untouched rocks and materials inside the cave could unlock secrets of the moon's volcanic past and offer insights into its evolution. Lunar orbiters spotted these pits a decade ago, and some of them have been dubbed as skylights, as they lead to expansive lava tube. It is like nature's ready-made bunkers with stable temperatures and natural shielding. Space agencies are now gearing up for human moon landings by figuring out how to assess and reinforce these underground structures. They want to do everything possible: monitoring systems for seismic activities, designate safe zones in case of cave-ins, and all the infrastructure needed to make these moon caves habitable. But they still have a lot to learn about what lies beneath these pit entrances. It also comes with a few logistical hurdles. Astronauts will have to descend a daunting 125 meters. They will have to navigate a rim of loose debris that can trigger avalanches with every step. So it will require a substantial infrastructure. As the world prepares for humanity's next giant leap, it seems the future of mankind on the moon might actually be beneath its surface. So let's take it one cave at a time.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.